So, hi Kiran, I have just made this event live and we are now available on YouTube as a live feed. So, we'll wait for a few minutes.
Sure, Gaurav. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
So, Kiran, I can see about 7 people are already
Okay.
on the YouTube channel. They are with
Mhm.
us.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. In the interest of time, we can just get started and we'll let others join.
sure. So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the session. And I have got Kiran partly with me. And I would first like to take this opportunity to thank you, Kiran. It's really early for him in the morning. He has joined us from Minneapolis, US. And as we all know, he's very enthusiastic in sharing his knowledge with the community. And so he graciously agreed this time as well to present a session for us. So, people who don't know about Kiran, I'll quickly read out his bio, which is very, very impressive. And Kiran has spent nearly a decade crafting quality solutions for end users. Initial couple of years he spent on pure .NET platform, and the rest of the years in developing Sitecore-based enterprise-level solution for a few of the Fortune 100 clients. Kiran is Sitecore as well as Microsoft certified professional. Uh, Kiran is a Sitecore MVP from last 7 years, and he has got his first Sitecore MVP award when there were fewer than 100 Sitecore MVPs globally, and he was one of the first Sitecore MVPs from India. Kiran also loves to teach programming. He has taught .NET to final year university students. But now, due to scarcity of time, he quenches his teaching thirst via blogging, mentoring, coaching, and sharing his knowledge as a guest lecturer. And that's why Kiran is with us today. Kiran is a co-founder of a Sitecore User Group India, and he shares his Sitecore learnings via his blog, which you can access on sitecorebasics.wordpress.com. Kiran's passion is to simplify human lives using technology, and luckily, that's what his profession is as well. His mantra is stick to basics. In his free time, he loves to learn new technology, write blogs, read, travel, and explore the nature so that he's recharged for his busy time. And that's a very, very impressive bio, Kiran. And I love reading such bios whenever I host such webinars. And thank you so much again, once again. And let's start and we all are waiting eagerly to, okay, I've got a comment that I need to remove this banner. So I'll remove the banner first.
Sure.
So since we have already started.
Awesome.
All right. So, guys, everyone who is watching on the YouTube, please use the YouTube chat window for your comments and questions. We will be getting those in the live feed, and in the at the end of the session, we will be taking those questions and answering. We'll try our best to answer all of those. Right. So, over to you, Kiran. I think you are all set. Your screen I can see, and once you share that, everyone should be able to see it.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much, Gaurav, for reading out that full bio patiently. And again, thank you so much for you for arranging this. I know that a couple of days back we have been texting back and forth due to time schedules, and then you have been wake up till late night for getting the taste done. So again, thanks for all those efforts. Those all are kind of community efforts. So thanks for doing all those things. So all of my friends who has joined to this session, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon from whatever the region you have attended. And namaste to all my India friends. Thanks if you have taken time from your busy schedule, because I know that every project has timeline or deadline, and you took a time to join this 60 minutes. And I'll make sure that I give you best out of the 60 minutes with whatever I learned with Sitecore Publishing Service. And thanks to those folks who have taken kind of a long weekend holiday in India, because I know that there is a festival coming tomorrow. So thanks if you join from your home and then during your holiday. So again, appreciate you joining. And as I mentioned, I'll try to give you best out of this 60 minutes, which we are going to spend together from now. So topic, as you already know, Sitecore Publishing Nirvana. So as part of that session, we'll be going through some of the introduction. Again, Gaurav has done a good job introducing me, but still I'll just go through few things, basics and questions. It's all about understanding the basics of what you are implementing. So I'll explain that. And during my experience with Sitecore Publishing Service, there are a lot of questions people are asking again and again, either on the Slack channel or in community or when you meet people. So I'm trying to try to create, consolidate them and give an answer of that. Installation and configuration, how to install, because there are n number of ways to install Sitecore Publishing Service, and it varies based on premises and on cloud. So I'll share those. Deployment, it depends on your deployment topology, but let's say if you have zero downtime deployment, how you can make sure that your publishing service is ready for that. And troubleshooting, obviously when you are implementing something in this microservices world, you need to know the right approach and right logs and right tools to troubleshoot. So I'll share a few of them which I learned, and then finally we'll have a question and answer. Same thing, as a housekeeping notes, as Gaurav mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in YouTube channel, and then Gaurav will be routing it to me. Okay, so let's start. So introduction, quick introduction. I have been working with horizontal integration since last roughly 6 years, and recently I have been working from horizontal integrations Minneapolis office. If you don't know about horizontal integration, we are a platinum Sitecore partner, and we have been doing Sitecore since last 14, 15 years. And we have offices across the globe. And one of the office in India we have is in Baroda, from where we started, and then now Bangalore and Pune and a lot of other offices we have opened. So I work as a senior technology lead, where I lead the technical implementation of Sitecore. As Gaurav mentioned already, 10 years I have been crafting on Sitecore and still learn everything new every morning. First Sitecore MVP from India, and then few of the blogs which I have been writing. Sitecore Basics is one of my blog which I have been writing since last 7, 8 years, or might be 9 years. And then Horizontal Integration is our company blog where I also blog. Uh, we also started first Sitecore user group from India, which is Sugin. So why am I waking up in the morning and then doing this session? I really like this Dalai Lama quote, which says that share your knowledge. It is a way to achieve immortality. Because at one point of time, we all are going to die, but knowledge, what we are going to share, is going to be there on the universe, and that's kind of my passion to make sure that whatever I have learned hard way, I like to share that, and that something is stays in the universe in the form of knowledge. Those who know and have been attending my sessions are incomplete without story, and that same holds true for the session as well. Because as it's Monday morning for a few of the folks and Monday afternoon, I don't want to bore you with some kind of heavy session. So start with a story, because story stays in mind. So I'll start with the story of a developer, and let's begin. So as we start with any story, all standard disclaimer that all the characters in this stories are fictional, and if it has coincidentally matching with anyone dead or living, that's something just a coincidence. With that disclaimer, let's start. So one fine evening in the streets of Gurgaon, boss having tea with his sharpest Sitecore mind. Boss talks to ban. Hey ban, client has complained that with the new multi-region deployment, publishing is super slow. Ben is a Sitecore specialist, and he says, "Okay, I think I know what needs to be done." So he said, "Okay, boss, I'll get it done." So they complete their tea, and then go back, and Ben starts working on this one. So what Ben does, he applies some publishing booster configuration where he increases the max degree of parallelism, and some of the processors which Sitecore community recommends, he disabled that, and then he validated publishing, and it worked fine as per his validation. Then he went back, and then he asked his boss that, "Boss, we are ready now, and we can ask client to validate those changes again, and publishing is faster." So boss gets excited, and then he reaches out to client that, "Hey client, just go ahead and validate publishing. Our engineers have fixed it." Client tries that, and unfortunately client publishes the full node with all languages, multiple languages they have, and all the publishing targets, and publishing doesn't go through faster. Client gets pissed off because they have the launch coming up, and then deadline is very near, and then they reached out to the boss that we need this publishing to be fixed as soon as possible, else we might need to delay the timeline, which we are not ready for. So again, they go for a tea, the same evening tea place, and then they discuss about this. This time, boss is a bit angry because it's all about timeline. So he's asking man to work hard and get this done, things fixed faster. Now Ben has been working day and night. He goes home, works till late night. He's spending his weekend to figure out all the publishing issues. But he couldn't figure out. He tries a couple of things, but he's not able to fix it. While he's looking at it, and as you can see, Ben, he's now all frustrated, and then obviously he's not bleeding out, but this kind of a hypothetical thing where it shows that he's bleeding out. And then thought that he should reach out to a great Sitecore community. Again, shout out to all the Sitecore community folks who are active. And then if you're not active on Sitecore community, I would request you to be active on that, because there are a lot of good human beings there ready to help you out with all your questions. So while waiting for answer, Ben also thought that he should also go and pray to God uh, to achieve some nirvana. So he goes to God, and then asks God for some help, and then God says Tathastu. Those who don't know, Tathastu, it's a Sanskrit word which means that as you wish. So God says as you wish, and then luckily in next day when Ben comes back to work, he sees a reply from Sitecore community member Stephen Pope. He says that, "Hey Ben, why don't you try Sitecore Publishing Service? That should help you to resolve all your issues." So Ben got some kind of a lead, and then he started working on it. And luckily, that Sitecore Publishing Service configuration and installation fixed all the issues which Ben was having. And then Ben had a good launch, and then he felt that he is in the Nirvana state, which is a state where human is in perfect happiness. So Nirvana is a Buddhism word. Again, if you don't know about that, so that's a small story about publishing. Again, as I mentioned, it's a whole hypothetical story, but I think it talks about that all the publishing, legacy publishing service to a sector publishing service, how it can change how publishing works. So now let's go more about publishing service. So basics and questions. So let's start with why. Why publishing service? So why Sitecore folks decided, and why community has been asking for a better publishing option than the current publishing service or legacy publishing service? The biggest reason behind that was the old publishing service was there since beginning of Sitecore, and it got very complex. I think when the Sitecore launched the Sitecore publishing service, they mentioned that since a decade, no one has touched the Sitecore publishing service logic. So they thought that we should have something different and something very disconnected, which where we this wanted to start from scratch and nothing has been reused from the past. So let's talk about numbers, because obviously we can implement something, but does it work? Does it solve the purpose? So one of the community member has already done comparison of publishing service and legacy publishing service. So big shout out to EHAB for that. Uh, so as you can see, the differences are huge, and publishing service helps you a lot when you have multi-region deployment, because in the multi-region world you will you will have latency challenges, and those publishing services solving those nicely because of the architecture what Sitecore has laid down. I would strongly recommend you to read this article, which talks about how the stats has been generated, but the results are really awesome. So let's say you can see this West US, uh, this using old publishing, and this is a new publishing. The difference is vast. Apart from this, at horizontal integration, we also launched one of our enterprise client who has this architecture where you can see that they have one CM server which is in US region. They have their own core master database. They also have Solar Cloud and Covio. Apart from that, they have three regional CD servers. When I say three regional CD servers, they have three CD servers in different regions. One is US, another is EU, which is Europe, and AS, which is Asia. So three CD servers. They have their own databases, which means that in when you publish from Sitecore CM instance, it will have three publishing targets. So think of when you're publishing a single item or a huge item, it will go to three databases and it has to do a cache clearing and all those things, and they all are in the different region. As you can see, the publishing services in the US region, still it does a great job of removing the latency. Few of the more complexity of the solution was it had 30 language sites. So which means that when you go to particular item and you look at the Sitecore content tree, it will have 30 language versions for some of the regions. Three regional servers, as I mentioned, they have three CD servers, huge amount of product data they had, and that's something they are publishing. They also have Covio and Solar Cloud. So we also needed to make sure that indexing is working with new publishing service. So based on my experience, like when we were building that and doing kind of third or fourth sprint, we were doing a publishing with the whole publishing service with all these regions. For 19 plus hours, the publishing was going on. It was we were not able to complete it, and we had to finally restart it. And that was the time when we decided, okay, now let's go ahead and switch to Sitecore Publishing Service. After doing that, the whole publishing, which was not completed for 19 plus hours, now getting completed in a couple of hours without any issues. So you might ask, okay, so is Sitecore Publishing Service a solution for all the Sitecore needs? The answer is it depends. So let's say if you don't have your site huge, uh, and if you don't have multiple languages, and if you don't have multi-region deployment, then Sitecore Publishing Service might not be required. It's good to have, but it is not must to have. But when you have multi-region deployments like this one, and then you have multi-language, I would say that Sitecore Publishing Service is must have, because it will resolve all your publishing challenges. So what is Sitecore Publishing Services? So Sitecore Publishing Service is an opt-in module, which is an optional replacement for Sitecore Publishing methods. So technically, it's an opt-in module, which means it's an optional thing. If you want, you can have it. If you don't want, you can just ignore and just use by default legacy publishing service. It increases throughput and overall performance. It is technically an additional .NET Core module, which Sitecore talks via REST API. It connects to same Sitecore databases, so you don't need to have additional databases. At the same time, you don't need to have any Sitecore license, additional Sitecore license as well. It works with your default Sitecore license. So Sitecore CM instance connects with Sitecore Publishing Service using the Sitecore Publishing Service URL. So when it was released, it was first released in August 2016. The initial version it got launched was 8.2 update 1. Along with that, they launched Sitecore Publishing Service 1.1 initial release, which was relied on ASP.NET Core 1.0. Latest release date, the latest version is launched in July 2019. 4.1.0 is the latest version what they have. Sitecore Publishing Service was the first step towards Sitecore host architecture, where the whole microservice implementation started. So now let me show you a demo of Sitecore Publishing Service, because I have been talking and I know that developers love to see demo. So I have this Sitecore 9.2 instance already up and running. So I'll have install Sitecore Publishing Service. How to install Sitecore Publishing Service, that's something I'll come up in the next section of the slide. But I have this item. I go here and I click on the publish. So as you can see that till this point of time, same steps, nothing new. I've clicked on publish. Now this dialog, what you are seeing is a different dialog. It has published sub items, published sub related items, those language versions. I have additional publishing target, which I have configured for demo. And then as you can see, this UI is different. Now when I click on publish, this something is a different experience. Now publish has been triggered, but the job has been moved. So it is not saying the publish has been started. So what it does, it creates a job and push to a publishing service. In the old legacy service, you have to wait for the job to complete and the spinner to complete. Till then, you cannot move. But here, the publishing has been pushed, and then you have to check the publishing status from here, which says that publishing is done. Or if you want to go to publishing dashboard, you can click here, which this comes up after you install Sitecore Publishing Service. As soon as you click here, it shows that publishing was done. It shows that publishing was done. It published on these two targets with this language. It took this much amount of time, and these are targets. I can republish if I want, and I can close this dialog. So this is a new dialog which something comes up with Sitecore Publishing Service. And this is another UI, it's like kind of URL for Sitecore Publishing Service, which is Sitecore Publishing 9.2, and then API publishing job status. Sitecore Publishing is an additional website which runs here on .NET Core. So as you can see here, it has its own assemblies and files and configurations, which I have installed. And then, so I have two instances. One is my Sitecore instance, and another is publishing instance. And then it is using all the ASP.NET Core assemblies. We'll go a little bit deep once we go to the next section of the session. So after that quick demo of Sitecore Publishing Service, let's go to the next section, which is how Sitecore Publishing works, because that will be the good thing to know how technically it works. So Sitecore Publishing, as I mentioned, it has its own different dashboard and own configurations, and there are key concepts how Sitecore Publishing works. It has divided, and it is kind of a microservice architecture where you can see your Sitecore CM triggered site publish, which goes to a publishing service, and publishing service does a job. Now to expand further, this publishing service has done something which is do site publish. It takes items to be published from source database, mostly it's master. It calculates the manifest, and then I'll talk about manifest in a bit. And then it reads the publishable items, and then it takes the items from master and writes to web, and then it clears cache, and then it clears cache on CD and CM, and then the publishing is done. So this is how it works. So there are a few key concepts you have to remember when you work with publishing service. The first concept is publishing jobs. So publishing job is a kind of a sidecar job which starts. So when you do a publish, it's publishing service creates a job. Think of job as a kind of a batch operation. It starts in the background. It's on a new thread. Uh, it creates manifest. So what is manifest? So publish in the publishing service, manifest is a very important concept to know. Basically, manifest is an information or publishing artifacts which I need to get done. It's about all things which should go. Then once the manifest is calculated, it does a promotion. promotion is equal to execution. So whatever task I define in manifest, all those gets executed in promotion phase. And once promotion phase is done, I will have manifest results as an output of the manifest. Once manifest results are done, you if you let's say once your publishing is done and you want to update some other systems, you can hook this publish and result patch pipeline, which will be executed when you have your publishing done. So just to simplify under explanation of this, uh, I have took one of the log which says that sorry, which shows you how publishing service. I'll try to my zoom it somehow is causing some issues. So I'll try to use magnifier, which I'm not comfortable with. So as you can see, when this one is a kind of one of the log which I got from log file. So you can see that once the job starts, it says new job queued. It gives a job ID and target. All the information of that job is here. And then it shows that, as I mentioned, it starts a job and then creates manifest. So this one is a manifest entry. And then it adds the manifest, calculates the manifest. And then it promotes to the target, which is promotion phase. And then job is ended. So this is how this publishing service works. Again, we'll go to log, how to see this log and how to understand this. We'll see that in the next session. Uh, Questions. There are a lot of frequently asked questions which I have seen across the community. So first and foremost question comes, will publishing service clear my Sitecore cache or HTML cache? The answer is absolutely it will. But you need to make sure that you have sitecore.publishingservice.delivery.config activated and is there on your CD servers. What should be there and how it should be deployed, I'll talk about that in the next section. But this is the most asked question in the community. But I would say that with this multi-region deployment, we have zero issues with HTML cache clearing or custom cache clearing because we are relying on that heavily. The reason why it causes confusion is in the knowledge base article, it has has mentioned that there is a known issue with HTML caching with content availability feature. So content availability feature is a different feature of Sitecore, where let's say if you have one product which you want to show only in Christmas and then remove after Christmas, that all those things can be done using content availability. So if you are using those kind of features, then it has some known issue for sure. And then you need to just double check Sitecore knowledge base article before using Sitecore Publishing Service. But if you're not using that, just go ahead and use Sitecore Publishing Service. It will surely clear all your caches, required caches. Second question comes up is, will it work with event queue? So if you don't know about event queue, it's a mechanism inside core architecture where all the systems know when to clear cache and when to do indexing, and that happens using the event queue mechanism. So that's something also works by default. Will it trigger site search provider indexing? For example, you have Solar, Azure Search, Covio. Will it trigger indexing? The answer is absolutely yes. But as I mentioned, Sitecore Publishing Service Delivery config needs to have the configuration. Then only it will do it. How to configure that and what to be taken care? I'll talk about that in a while. Will it trigger? How to trigger SPS job using code? A lot of people are triggering publishing and then they are not noticing that publishing service is taking their programmatical publish job or not. Absolutely, you can do that, but for that you need to make sure that you are using sitecore.publishing.publishing manager class to do all your things. If you are using other mechanism, it won't work. It's a nice article which I would strongly recommend to read, but if you are using Sitecore Publishing Service, make sure that you are using Sitecore Publishing Publish Manager class. The best thing about this class is it works with legacy publishing at the same time with new publishing service. And I think Sitecore has done a great job. The Sitecore Publishing Service team has done a great job creating proxy to make sure that all those backend things are taken care. Still, there are some known issues. So I would say that go through this KBI article, which lists down all the KBI, all the known issues, and then reach out to Sitecore or Sitecore community if you still have questions. Okay, so I'm going to next section, which is installation and configuration. So now, till this point of time, we know why Sitecore Publishing Service is important, what benefit it gives. You must be curious how to install and how to configure it. And that's a great question. So to install Sitecore configuration, I have created this simple kind of diagram for you. So let's talk about basics. So Sitecore Publishing Service configurations are in two configuration formats, XML or JSON. So whatever format you are comfortable with, that can be used. And then so when you go to configuration, you can see that they are using either JSON or XML. So you either will find either of these option in your folders. There are three important folders which you need to know for Sitecore Publishing Service: your installation path /config, Sitecore, global and environment, and you can override each folder as you go later. So let's say if you want to have a dev environment and I can want to override something, that will override other configurations I have done in the other folders in the top. The prerequisite is ASP.NET Core or .NET Core is must required for Sitecore Publishing Service. I have divided this Sitecore Publishing Service process in 4 steps. The first thing is install and configure Sitecore Publishing Service. Second is configure or upgrade schema. Third step is install Sitecore Publishing Service module on your CM instance. So these two steps are installing Publishing Service, which is a different additional module, and this one is installing Sitecore Publishing Service module on your CM instance. If you have XP scale, then you need to copy few files manually, which is already mentioned in the Sitecore documentation. At the same time, when you install this Publishing Service module, it also gives you a list of things to be copied in the wizard, in the installation wizard. So, and then you have different options to deploy Sitecore Publishing Service. Again, this is another question which is heavily asked, like, can I host Sitecore Publishing Service on Azure PaaS? Or might be another PaaS solution what you have? And the answer is absolutely yes. You can do that two-way manually using the, again, great blog provided by Ehab, and then automated, again, shout out to Corey for creating an ARM template and WDV package using which you can deploy. One thing you have to remember, this is an official way. Obviously, this is also not a Sitecore's own documentation, but I have tried this and it has been working absolutely fine for our enterprise solution. I haven't tried this, but looking at the article and community, I think this should be also working for you. If you have VM or IaaS, you can also use manually. You can install that, or you can also script. So Sitecore Publishing Service comes up with its own exe, using which you can script your whole installation, full installation, using PowerShell or whatever scripting language you know. So without spending much time, let's go through each of the link. So first step is installing Sitecore Publishing Service. So from where I can find Sitecore Publishing Service. So I clicked on this link, which brought me to this Sitecore Publishing Service page. It has different versions. So let's say if I have to download this one, I'll click here, and then it comes in two variants, 32-bit, 64-bit. Mostly on the production server, you'll go with 64-bit. A lot of developers also have 64-bit machine. So go with that. And then also comes with a nice installation guide. And this also has known issues list. So I also have downloaded this guide already for you, and you can refer this step by step. So it has requirements, configuration, what all things needs to be done. So I'm looking at this one. So as I mentioned, it's manual installation. Technically, you create a site and then you follow some steps, which I'm going to show you in a while. And then, so let's look at the Sitecore Publishing Service configuration before we go to next step. So as I mentioned, the documentation is good enough. At the same time, you can also follow blog written by Sitecore folks who helps you understand how you can configure this. So let me show you how to do this or how I have done this. First thing, I have downloaded this and extracted this folder here. Second thing, I created a new site using this sites and add website, which is a new website. Uh, the basic thing is the application pool says that it is not a managed core, which is using .NET Core configuration. Once I do that, uh, I will have an exe. This is known as Sitecore Publishing Framework host.exe. So first and foremost thing you do is keep schema list. So you just list down the schema uh, and it shows 2 and 2. So what does this mean? That it already has schema installed and the version is up to date. This 3 lines are kind of to add your connection string entry. So Sitecore Publishing uh, Service comes with an exe. You just provide this configuration command, set connection string core, and you provide your core database entry, then master, and then your web. As soon as you do that, technically what it does is it goes and creates and entry in this JSON file here. And then once I show you this JSON file, I'll close the other files and it shows you the kind of connection string here. You need to make sure that multiple active results is equal to true. But if you are using this command to create or add an entry, you don't need to worry because it takes care of all those things by default. And once you have this connection strings configured, you can do a schema upgrade force, which will install schema if you are doing a fresh installation. When you do a schema installation, technically behind the scene, what it does is it creates few tables in your database, what has been configured for Sitecore Publishing Service to manage schema and calculate the job manifest and all those additional things. So there are a lot of databases I have. So I'll just do filter my databases with just the relevant database. So in the master database, as you can see, it has installed few of this additional databases, activation log, database service. I have to again enable magnifier so you guys can see this activation log and all those. So just all the database with tables with publishing will have all this information which publishing service needs. So once that is done, then what you do is you go to your CM instance, in which in my case is this one, and then here you have to add one file which is publishing service.custom. This is a patch file where you just provide your publishing service host name and it will be taking care of your publishing. It will be connecting to publishing service on this click. Now going to next. So once you are done, then you should be able to just get the publishing service working. Obviously, for this to work, you need to install publishing service module. Let's talk more about it in the next slide. So once you, so we have done this publishing service configuration, then you have to install Sitecore Publishing Service module on your Sitecore CM instance and then copy few files on CD instance. So as I mentioned, publishing service module and publishing service both are different. So then don't get confused with that. And then publishing service module installation is also simple. You just have to install a Sitecore package and then that should be just getting you going. And as if you have CD server, then you just need to make sure that you copy few files manually or you have in your deployment process. And then all this configuration is again a nice blog uh, by the main person who worked on the Sitecore Publishing Service, which also talks about this very nicely. So I would strongly recommend this one. And if you want to configure an Azure patch, There is no kind of official Sitecore documentation, but you can follow this documentation and it just works. Obviously, you need to run that exe, and then that exe can be run in Azure PaaS using this console in Azure PaaS, and that something should be getting the same things done. And then you provide your Azure PaaS URL for publishing service configuration. And then last but not the least is by this great stuff what Corey has done, using which you can create WDV package for your publishing service. So it just takes those Sitecore Publishing Service provided zip files and converts it to WDV package. But again, this something is not an official Sitecore thing, so try it before you go on production. So we are done with installation and configuration. Please remember, there are a few things which you need to remember. You must need to copy files on CD server, and which files to copy, that's something will be part of your installation guide. Uh, your patch file should have value attribute. So when you install Sitecore publishing service module, Sitecore documentation says that you need to have this value here, but I have seen that that causes some issues. So better that you have your value in the value attribute, then only the patching will go on fine. So hopefully Sitecore will double check that, or might be something else is going on there. So make sure you do that. Um, After making any change in the Sitecore Publishing Service, one thing you must need to remember that it doesn't automatically restart. So you need to manually restart your application or application pool once you make changes. As Sitecore Publishing Service and Sitecore Publishing Service module versioning has changed from 9.2. So I would strongly recommend that you go through the document to make sure that you are using the right. And then Sitecore documentation has this nice table which helps you understand the publishing service module and publishing service applied or available for your version. So now let's talk about some advanced scenarios. So publishing targets. So let's say in the multi-region deployment, you have to add your additional publishing targets. So there are configuring that in publishing service is a bit tricky process, but there are a lot of community members have done a great job documenting that, and I'll go through that configuration real quick. So first and foremost thing what you need to do for a publishing service is, or for additional publishing target is, you need to make sure that you have that additional database here. So in this case, what I have done, I have added this Web2 database. Yeah, just trying to make sure that this Zoom it should be working, so that will be easy for you guys to visualize. Okay, so it is not working, so I'll just keep moving. So I have this Web2, which is my additional web database. Once I have done that, what I'll do is I'll make sure that my CM instance, so I'll go to my Sitecore CM instance, and then I will go to my connection string first, where I'll show you guys that I have additional Web2 database configured. Once I have done that, another thing I need to do is you need to configure the publish like additional database inside core. So I have done that using this configuration patch file, which I'll be posting on a GitHub as well, so you can use that. So I have configured this additional database and then some event queue configuration. Once this one is done, so this is the only this is the configuration what you need to do on CM. Apart from that, what you should be doing is you need to add additional publishing target known as Web2. As you can see here, it should be having the same name as your connection string, what you have. And then once you have that, you should be going to Sitecore Publishing Service configuration. So now let's go back and go to Sitecore Publishing configuration. Here, you need to go to config and then global. Make sure that you have this additional Web2 configuration. You can do this manually, or and then make sure that you restart, or you can do the same command to add that Web2 entry. It's up to you, whatever you are comfortable. Then you need to go to Sitecore folder, publishing folder, and then go to this. Here, you need to do a couple of configuration. One is this Web2. So you need to add this additional Web2 next to your internet target, which is a default one. And then here you need to make sure that you are pointing to your Web2 database. Once this one is done, there is additional configuration here for your publishing targets. So this is a targets configuration. So below this internet, you have to copy your node. And then one important thing to remember is you should have the Web2 database, and then make sure that you have this ID. This ID should be same as your this ID of your publishing target. So 52CA and then this 52CA. So once you do this configuration, once you do a restart, and if everything is configured right, uh, and then if you run this upgrade schema as well, you should be having no issues with additional publishing target, which I think I have already shown you, but I'll show you again. Sorry, uh, which has my additional publishing target listed here. Now we'll go to the next section, which is known as high availability mode. So let's say if you have enterprise solution and publishing is very critical process. So how can you make sure that publishing is always available? So there are a couple of ways to get this done in Sitecore Publishing Service. One thing you can do is you can run your Azure PaaS Sitecore Publishing Service as a scaled out application service. That is absolutely possible. Or you can set up two Azure PaaS Publishing Service instance, and that should also be working fine. Uh, you can also set up multiple instances on multiple computers or VMs based on your need, and that should be also working fine. Do you need to do any additional configuration? The answer is no. Sitecore Publishing Service is smart enough. If you have two publishing services running, connecting to same database, it will go and figure out how to run the high availability mode. So let's say if you have two publishing services running, publishing service 1, publishing service 2, and for some reason publishing service 1 uh, gets dead and then it is not working, then what will happen is publishing service 2 will be active, and then it will take care of all your publishing instance. So for your end user, they will not need to worry about anything. They will make sure that all the publishing is happening. How to get this configured? There's again nice configuration, or what to make sure. There's a nice KB article how you can do that. One thing you can do is, by default, Sitecore Publishing Service gives a name like this GUID name. You can give your user-friendly name using this documentation. Technically here, if you open Sitecore Publishing XML, here you can give your instance name. So let's say you can give A and B. What is the benefit of giving the instance name? I'll talk about that right now. So whenever you start publishing service, and when you are looking at the logs, which I have not shown you. So when you go to root, click on the logs folder. Here it generates the log files. And then here, when you open this log file, when it starts publishing service, it generates this instance name. So it will be difficult to understand this instance name, which you might not need it, but when you are troubleshooting publishing service issues, you might need to go to activation log. This is the table which it uses for HA mode or high availability mode to mention that which node is active right at this point of time. As you can see, this 0E, this is the current node which is active. Let's say if you have two publishing service, the another node will be active if this service somehow gets destroyed. And then you can see all your log files, what publishing started, and all those things from here. So again, same, go to publishing service root, click on logs, and you can see these logs from here. You can also configure application insights for your logging, and that configuration is available in the Sitecore documentation. So now we have installed, configured in local, and then it is working fine even on the QA. So now let's talk about how we deploy things. So in the deployment, blue-green is an approach of doing deployment, which is also known as zero downtime deployment. So let's say if you have zero time deployment, and based on your deployment strategy, you might swap your web databases, or you might have a new web databases created on the fly. In that case, you need to make sure that you swap your uh, connection strings based on your strategy using your octopus, and that's what we have been doing in our case, because this connection string .json needs to point to the correct web databases to publish. And if you have blue green, as per that blue green topology, you need to make sure or strategy, you need to make sure that you are replacing the connection strings on the fly, and octopus can do these things nicely. Another is automatic publishing. So let's say you have your overall deployment process, where after doing a TDS package deployment or unicorn, using a Sitecore item deployment using either unicorn or TDS, you want to publish everything. So that can be done using a lot of mechanisms available in Sitecore community or Sitecore world. But we have been using Toolcore. So if you don't know about Toolcore, it's a kind of community module available using which you can do publishing or indexing. So we have been using Toolcore a lot, but during our Sitecore Publishing Service implementation, what we learned that the Toolcore module, which is currently released, is not compatible with Sitecore Publishing Service because it has been using publisher class. And to make sure that it is compatible, we have created a fork out of it, and then we have updated the code to use Publish Manager API class. So if you want, and if you are still using Toolcore, and then if you are having issues, just go and check out from this uh, GitHub repository. And if you use this publishing service code, you'll be able to module you. It will be working with publishing service. The best part about this update is it will be also working with legacy publishing. So you don't need to have two modules installed. You can use the one module which will work with the legacy as well as the new publishing service. So now let's talk about troubleshooting. Once we have done deployment, then the another challenge which comes up with the troubleshooting. So logs. So which files you should check for logs? So first and foremost is check your Sitecore CM files and make sure that all the log information is there. If any publishing is there, check that is there any error there. Mostly what you will find there is the API connection or something like that entry will be there. Sitecore Publishing Service logs, you need to check. As I mentioned that whenever publishing happens, it creates a job and manifest in promotion. So make sure you check that. I mentioned that location, it should be in the config Sitecore folder. After making any changes to Sitecore Publishing Service, you must need to remember that you need to restart your Sitecore Publishing Service. HA mode, if you are running in high availability mode, and if you have some locking issues, make sure that you go to activation log table, which I shown you some time back. Sorry about that. Some time back, just check that table and then make sure that it has no old entry. In case you have some issues with Sitecore Publishing Service or publishing, to remove a Sitecore Publishing Service possibility, there is a way to disable Sitecore Publishing Service with few minimal steps. So just disable few configuration files, and then you no need to uninstall all the Sitecore items. You just have to have this item in the alias renamed in Sitecore core database, and then publishing services will be disabled, and then the legacy publishing service will be triggered. So in I think 2 to 3 minutes, you can just revert back to Sitecore Publishing Service. Obviously, whatever time Sitecore comes to warm up will be the additional time. You are having issues with caching and indexing, then I would strongly recommend that you double check your sitecore.publishing.service.delivery.config on CD server and make sure that you have copied all the configuration files on CD server. So let me show you what you need to or must need to check. So let's again go back to Sitecore CM instance. Once we go here, go back to this modules, publishing service, and then the important file which you need to know here is publishing service.delivery.config. In the scale instance, you need to copy this file to CD instance. Uh, the first and foremost thing what you need to find out is the hooks are properly configured, the rules are properly configured, and this cache clearing entries are there, the events are there. The another big thing what people miss is they don't have all the custom indexes listed here. So let's say if you have your custom indexes, I would say that come here and add your custom index here. Or let's say if you have your Covio configured, then make sure that Covio master and web index are configured here. All those things needs to be here for your indexing to work. If you don't have this configuration and if you're not deployed all this DLL and configuration on CD server, then your publishing service will not be able to clear cache and trigger indexing. So please make sure that when you have indexing issues or caching issues, this file is there and the patching is getting applied. Moving to next topic. Before you reach out to conclusion that Sitecore Publishing Service is not working, best thing to reach out is Sitecore Publishing, Sitecore KB article, and then Sitecore Publishing Service community. There are a lot of people active to help you out. The best thing to do is like Sitecore Slack chat. Sitecore Slack chat is a nice community initiative where you can connect with a lot of other peoples, and they have different chat groups available. And the publishing service is one of the chat group which you should be asking question related to publishing service. With that said, now we have reached out to a section of Q&A. So I'll see if Gaurav has any questions or anyone has any question for me. I'll be more than happy to answer.
So, Kiran, we got a couple of questions in the chat, but I think you have covered. The first question was around how we can set up Sitecore Publishing Service with Sitecore 9.0.2 Azure Web App. So, I
Hmm.
think which covered already in your slides, where you mentioned different options, right? Community options for ARM templates.
Yep.
Uh, Anything else you would want to add there?
No. So I think again, same thing with Sitecore Publishing Service. The documentation is not much clear, and not a lot of people are clear with that. So I would say that go ahead and use those documentation which talks about how to deploy those. As I mentioned, that enterprise solution what we have is using that Sitecore Publishing Service on Azure PaaS in HA mode, and touch wood till this point of time we had zero issues with that. And then if you want to automate the deployment, you can use those WDP modules. And if you have any issues, concerns, just feel free to reach out. But yeah, it is 100% supported. Not sure why Sitecore is not coming up with nice documentation which talks about how to configure and how to set up and have those ARM templates. But I'm sure once community demands for that, it will be coming soon. So yeah, and I'll be sharing this kind of links and everything soon on GitHub, so you can just download and use those configuration and links as well, which I referred.
Sure. So the next question is around the performance. Again, I think you covered this in your initial slides
Mm-hmm.
where you talked about Formica implementation.
Mm-hmm.
So here the question is performance vis-a-vis default, any comparisons?
So like, is someone asking about the stats or numbers?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I
So I
think
know that you have stats from your project, right?
yeah. So
Is
I
there
think
any?
obviously 19 plus hours and two couple of hours is a good stats. At the same time, I think uh, this Ahab who works, I think for Sitecore, has done a great job where he has mentioned. So like this one, the CPU usage was 70%. The memory usage didn't exceed 400 MB. So like, which means that you can even run Sitecore publishing service might be on Raspberry Pi at one day. And then he has done all the calculations. Uh, 87% of the total publishing time wasted doing nothing with the old legacy publishing service. And then he has come up with a total latency formula. And then that's a kind of, sorry. So this diagram, what you see here, shows a graphical comparison of how Sitecore Publishing Service is faster than the legacy publishing service. And I will strongly recommend that you go through this blog because he has done a great job getting all those stats together.
Yes, awesome. Awesome. So the last comment which I see is from Ranjit Kandhari is asking Kiran, would you be providing link to this presentation? So
Yes, everything.
definitely, Ranjit, we would be sharing
Yeah.
the presentation, and this recording would be available on YouTube. So in case you guys want to re-refer it at any point in time later, you can go back and check the recordings. And Kiran is available on Twitter and
Yes, I'm
chat.
always available on the
Just
even the
get hold
Slack
of
channel of
him.
publishing service. Yeah, so feel free to reach out and then we'll be more than happy. I'll just get everything kind of ironed out and then share with Gaurav and community, and then you'll have everything available for your use.
Yes. Okay, I think we are overrunning this session by 2 minutes. So, Kiran, thank you so much once again for your time today and sharing all this
No,
goodness with the community. I know you have one more slide for the feedback if you just wanted to bring
sure.
that up.
Yeah,
And
again, thank you so much, Gaurav. As I mentioned, as I have been doing this, and we have been doing this site Cruiser Group India, it takes a lot of efforts in the back end, reaching out to people, going back and forth, and then getting those site session up, asking for the bios. So it's a lot of work which we as a community or we as an audience don't see that. So I would like to shout out to all the community folks who are doing this for community, and at the same time, thanks to everyone for joining your late evening or might be your long weekend and then listening this session. Hopefully this added value in your life. And then if you have any feedback or question or anything, feel free to reach out. And then obviously in India there is a big festival tomorrow, so have a nice festival and have a nice family time.
all right, thank you, everyone.
Yep. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye bye.